Get up, get on up. Yeah, that's right. Back to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Edward Bartholomew. That's good enough. For now, you'll listen to this one. It's good. He's a lighting designer, a couple other things, but we had a good chat. Before we get to that interview, though, I got to tell you about the Starfish. Greg, that's a pretty cool lighting control system that Satco's come out with.
Oh, it's awesome. Live life enabled is their slogan for it, and it makes a ton of sense. It enables you to do all sorts of things with your lighting in terms of, and when I say all sorts of things, it's with all different types of lighting too, directional lighting, general lighting like A-lamps, screw-ins, recessed cans, string light. Some people like string lights on their patios and things, tape light, outlets and wall switches, all can be programmed, color changeable, dimmed through a free app that doesn't need a hub. Some of these you pay a couple $1,000 for a hub just to get it to work. You don't need a hub with this. It's all built into it. It's Wi-Fi enabled. It goes with everything you need. The Google, the Alexa, Siri, unlimited devices and users are available. And there's even setting for kids. You got your kids with their tape lighting in my room like I do. Now we could set that thing and tell them, turn it off from your phone. Get it done.
Especially you got kids, they're always on those phones, man. Live life enabled. The marketing director of Satco, she or he is a genius, actually.
Oh, for sure.
We do the light thing, we do the right thing. Live life enabled. Wow, that's a really awesome tagline, and that. So you got to go to satco.com. That's Satco, light thing, right thing, and of course, proud members, Greg, of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to nailed.org.
That's right.
But for right now, enjoy Edward Bartholomew. Welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Edward Bartholomew.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Say hi to Greg Ehrich.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
Good, Edward. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So, how did we come to know each other, Edward?
Yeah, you tell me. You guys contacted me saying I was in the news. So how did you guys find out about me?
So there was a little bit of controversy. Al Usinski from the Inside Lighting. It's a great publication, actually. A great, really, really good online news site, up and comer, actually. Real mover and shaker, Al. He did his 10 predictions, or 11 and a half. Greg, what was it? 11 and a half predictions or something like that?
Yeah, 11 and a half, I think.
Yeah, for 2020 and 2021, and I was on that list, and so were you, Edward. And I made a prediction about dark skies, which is an issue I'm quite passionate about, actually. We've started a whole new podcast called Starving for Darkness to address that issue, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that and get your thoughts on it. But you had also made a quote about change and diversity and equity in the lighting business, and on another podcast, I had mentioned that, I don't know exactly what I said. I can't remember anymore, but there were some posts on social media, stating that, perhaps I didn't understand things or whatever was going on. And I'm very suspicious of change. I think it's a benign word when people use it. And so, the people took issue with that I didn't, and I said that, a lot of corporate statements were platitudes, which is something I believe. I actually think that, people make statements to go with the tide of the times, and whether it means anything to them or not is something that is subjective, and people can decide on later after they make the statements, right? Years down the road, and sometimes people forget stuff, and the climate of the times changes, right? And so I'm suspicious of those things, and that was your quote I was commenting on.
You want to go through my quote and kind of talk about that?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's right. Greg, what do you think? Let's ask Greg.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. That's a hot start, but
Yeah.
let's do that, because that's what we want to talk about in addition to a lot of other things lighting related. But let's start there.
Because when people say stuff to you about you on social media, within the lighting industry, it's not a big deal. Like, it doesn't affect my life really that much.
Yeah, I just want to clarify
Yeah.
I did not say anything about you.
No, but some people did. No, some
Okay,
people
all right,
did.
all right.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, and a couple people have asked me about it. Oh,
Hmm.
hey, I saw this
Wow,
post, and
wow.
get a grip
Okay,
on lighting this, and I was like, oh, okay, well, who's involved? And it was you, and so that's how we came to be on a podcast together.
sure.
So
So the quote was fairly, but innocuous, and I would say aspirational.
okay,
I apologize. I'm pulling up the quote now. Let's just say I've been writing articles, and your response to the quote, was interesting. It was brought to my attention, and I listened to your response, and I had to listen to it again. And clearly, people contacted me, and I understand. I understand your quote, and I understand their reaction to it. Let me tell you what my reaction is to it. My quote was aspirational. It, it's not even it wasn't even a call to arms or anything like that. It's fairly like diversity would be nice. It would be. I think that the industry will embrace diversity. You say that some things are temporary and transient, and sign of the times. Yeah, diversity is not. When you look around our industry, Michael, do you see a lot of diversity?
yes,
You
and
do.
yeah, I do. So I live in
All right.
Toronto, and
Mm-hmm.
Toronto's a very diverse city, and I would say all of my and I'm going to say the word white, and I'm going to assume that we understand what we mean by when we say that.
Sure.
Okay, because I'm not really involved in the whole uh, culture wars of the U.S. and what when people talk about this, what they actually mean. But
Mm-hmm.
Toronto is majority non-white city,
Mm-hmm.
and there's lots of people in the lighting business that are of many heritages, and
Okay. Yeah,
I have I would say
they're in great position.
the majority of my customers are non-white.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's great. I'm happy for Toronto. It sounds like they've achieved certain levels of diversity that clearly does not reflect itself in the states. Maybe in other provinces of Canada as well. Toronto is an exceptionally diverse place. I've been there. Uh, I actually went to Carabana.
Yeah, Carabana. Yeah, sure. That's
Yeah, that was awesome.
every
It was
summer. Yeah,
amazing.
for sure, for sure.
Oh
Carabana is
man, I had such
amazing,
a good
amazing
time.
festival.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
the food is so delicious, and
Oh, and the
oh,
music and the vibe and taking over
oh,
that island, and I had such
yeah,
a great time.
for sure.
So you guys it's a unique situation. In the industry, if you go to Light Fair, would you say it's diverse?
I wouldn't make a comment on that because
Okay.
and you know why I'll say that is because while most white people, most black people in the United States have regularly gone to places which are mostly white, most white people in the United States don't go to places that are mostly black.
How does that relate to Light Fair? I'm just
Oh,
trying
but
to
no, what I'm
understand.
saying is
What do
that
you mean?
when I
Yeah.
go to Light Fair, I see
Hmm.
people, and I don't really
Uh-huh.
think to myself that it's
Because you're of
diverse
the
or not
majority.
diverse.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
of the
think that to
majority
myself.
population.
Yes,
You don't
like I don't.
have to, and that's a great luxury. That's a great privilege that you don't have to think about that. That's
Right.
great. I do. When I go to Light Fair, I am one of very few black people at Light Fair. When I look at booths, I don't see many black people at booths, and I don't see many black people or any people of color in positions of power at these companies ever. And I noticed that, and it may be because I'm of the minority, but I noticed that. Now, say if I'm in Chicago or New York, majority minority cities, right? Light Fair is happening. So Light Fair is an anomaly within a majority minority city because it's majority white, right? To the extent that you don't even notice it, right? So that's something that we need to address. And that's something that I was speaking of in my aspirational statement that we need to have more diversity in the industry. We need to see more people of color in the industry, participating in industry, and being in positions of power within the industry, and having some agency within the industry. So that's what that statement really was about. And the benefit of that is that now we are going to reflect the communities that we address. So you talk about Toronto. It'd be great to see the lighting industry have more diversity within manufacturing, within designers, within distributors,
hang on,
contractors.
Yeah, so I think that
but I'm saying it's going to benefit all of us. It's all about win-win.
I agree.
You expand the market, you address, you reflect these communities, and it's a win-win, and it spreads the wealth out to these communities too, and that's a win-win.
I think you're 100% right. But what I would say is, though, that when you're looking at a gathering of light fair, say, that might not be the best place to gauge the extent of the problem.
Yeah, I call it rep fair, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best way to look at it because America is largely a white nation, so people come and congregate.
Actually, it's becoming majority minority are people of color. Actually, so we're at a tipping point right now.
Right. What I'm saying though is that I don't know if it's the right place to gauge that, to look at it. But I definitely...
It's just a sample. It's a sample,
right? You're there.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is that, diversity definitely increases the flavor of anything. There's, when you look at adding diversity to something, there's nothing negative about that in any way, shape, or form, because it only makes if like you said, the communities that are not represented, if they become represented, they become more engaged with the lighting business. They'll have more access to Starving for Darkness. They'll have their own ideas. They'll bring a different flavor to it. Like Toronto has so many flavors to it. Diversity adds to something. It makes the pie bigger.
Right, and these communities already have those type of flavors. They just are not amplified or not brought to the table in many instances. So I think there's an opportunity to engage communities in a deeper level. And that absolutely starts with diversity, not only with the team that's addressing them, that's bringing them in, but also representation matters. And so let's talk about what you said about statements and people putting out statements and people kind of the flavor of the week.
Well, before we do, I want it to be clear that we agree on that, actually.
Okay. So we agree that diversity is good.
Yes.
That's really stepping out, Michael. Greg, you want to step out on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm 100% with you guys on that. And I think it's just a matter of how it was understood. Oh, yeah. Always good. No issue.
Yes, so, I know you can't. But hang on a second. Hang on, Edward. Hang on for a second. Yeah. Because if anybody's questioning that, like if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this and that and whatever, you're saying that. I'm not afraid of Edward Bartholomew, and I'm not afraid of a Twitter mob or anybody else. What I'm telling people is that diversity is better, actually, in certain if you understand what people are talking about. Like, where would American music be without diversity?
Well, back in the 50s, but yeah.
Yeah, like Elvis Presley's pretty much on his own out there. You know what I'm saying? So diversity actually adds to the total value of the industry as a whole when you become diverse. And when people have heroes in the business that represent them in some way or that they can identify with, it grows the entire industry, actually. Makes it better.
Okay, so my statement really, it was a kind of aspirational, but I'm hoping that the lighting industry will take certain steps to become more diverse. And then those steps may include increasing the pipeline, having more students, and going into the professional pipeline that way, things like that. So we're looking at steps to do that. I'm working with the Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Respect Committee of the IES, and we're developing ways to look at our membership and understand exactly, baseline, how many people of color are actually in our industry or in our membership and things like that, understanding their positions and understanding what does that mean? Where do we stand? And then we can start taking actions to address bringing more diversity into the industry. So So there are concrete steps that are being taken kind of based on those statements that were put out by those organizations and those companies. Now, they got a lot of pushback on that. The IES did for stepping out like that. A lot of pushback. People quit. People were enraged by that. Um, and I understand what happened in June, in May and June, with George Floyd, the death of George Floyd, inspired a lot of movement, a lot of social justice movement happening, not just in America, but in Canada and throughout the world, New Zealand, Greenland. There are protests everywhere. That was 9 minutes of watching a man die, to be killed by an officer who was there to protect and serve, right? So that inspired a lot of activism. And one of my responses was on LinkedIn is that the lighting industry seemed to be going about business as usual. Now, Michael, it's easy to do that because, well, that doesn't affect you, seeing a black man die by the police. It doesn't impact you. It doesn't impact your bottom line. People are coming, buying lighting, installing lighting. Things are going on as usual. But to me, it had a deep and profound impact in that people were ignoring that and not even addressing that was hurtful for me, was hard for me. Now, sure, manufacturers, various organizations put out statements, and those statements may have been, nice to have, or this is what we want to believe in, and it may have been the flavor of the month. But collectively, it showed that there was an awareness that the current status quo is not good enough, that we need to change that. And that's where a lot of the diversity conversation is coming out of, is that we cannot just stand by, even though society wants things to be status quo. We need to move forward, and we need to embrace more people of different perspectives, different backgrounds, of different cultures. We need to bring them into the fold within our industry, which has been, and it's not just lighting, it's architecture, it's the whole architecture, engineering, construction industry is really needs to embrace more diverse perspectives and people within that, and to be a part of that, to take a part of the economy of that. And that's what's missing. Like I say, and even in the Boston area, a lot of contracts are given out, and they're not given out to people of color at all. These are millions of dollars of contracts. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. No, but I think that you said a lot there, but to really understand it, so you said education and this sort of thing. What do you think that the lighting industry can actually do? Not about like making statements, because a statement is a statement, and then people go.
Statement means something, though, Michael. A statement
hang on one second. Hang on, I'm asking you something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that the lighting industry can actually do, other than making statements? What should they do?
Well, I'm actually working with various. I'm working with the IES. We're trying to. I think the lighting industry can invest greater in historically Black universities and colleges and their engineering programs to expose them to lighting, to bring in more qualified engineers and train them about lighting, setting up programs at some of these historically Black colleges and universities, investing in that. So priming the pipeline, that's an important aspect. But other aspects are, there actually are Black and brown and people of color and LGBTQ, there are people already in our industry. We need to give them a greater voice. We need to make sure that they're being heard and they're being nurtured and mentored in some cases, but also given opportunities to rise up within those organizations, so that that they're somehow they're adding to the power structures within these organizations, because being at the table makes a huge difference. And so,
for sure,
those are some of the things.
Let me ask you something. So I would say that I think you've missed the biggest part.
Okay, what is it, Michael?
So when I was running various programs, I had to have a lot of electricians working for me at one point, many. Mm-hmm. And well, for me, it was a lot. So I had to go from like having 5 guys in my electrical team to having 20 within about 6 months to a year, and train them and everything like that. And what happened was Toronto didn't have enough electricians. There wasn't enough people who were electricians in Toronto to fill those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shortage of trades. And the government came up with a program that allowed me to hire new people from the community that were immigrants to Canada. So from all around the world, Africa, Pakistan, India, the Philippines, like all around the world, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that had foreign qualifications. And as a contractor, I could hire them, and the government would give a certain amount of money if the person was able to achieve their Canadian qualifications. And so they could be an electrician in Canada very quickly, within 1 or 2 years rather than 5 years. And this allowed a lot of people of color and minorities to gain Canadian qualifications. 5 of those guys that I hired now own their own companies. And so that was a targeted program. So what it said was, this is actually a unique problem we have. We don't have enough of this in this area.
Mm-hmm.
How can, and a lot of people had an uproar because the program was targeted at new Canadians, and there was people that were saying,
Mm-hmm.
what about born Canadians? They don't get any piece of the action. But the fact is that Canada is better. We targeted a program. It worked great. And it allowed people to come into the Canadian electrical contracting, the Toronto electrical contracting community. Okay. And then now those guys are great tax-paying, wonderful employers in Toronto. Like one of the guys is bigger than my company now, actually. So, so I would say, like, what can we do? Like,
Right.
other
So,
than make
I think
statements, how do you change that? How do you make it happen?
So, Michael, you just outlined a government program, a targeted government program. Those are very difficult to do within America. There's a lot of pushback on that, and you mentioned some of that. You mentioned how, if we have changed, something else will happen. If you change one thing, later on, implications later on will be negative. I don't know what you meant by that. But what could be some of the negative implications of something like that? Your positive program. What could have happened? What is happening that's negative?
So well, that's an interesting question. So, I know that in the U.S., for example, having a woman-owned business gets you certain advantages, right?
Very small, but yeah, like 5% X.
I don't know.
5%. That means 95 is men, but 5% may be targeted or earmarked for women or minorities. Mm-hmm.
No, but like having a majority-owned women business is like an advantage for bidding certain contracts, right?
Again, it's only 5. Like it's a small advantage, but it's a targeted advantage. Correct. It's a very targeted thing. Yeah.
Right. So now I know a lot of people in the United States who own businesses that have a female partner of some kind as a structural thing rather than an actual thing.
Yeah, people take advantage of these things.
Mm-hmm.
People absolutely do, and it's hard to enforce those type of programs. It's really difficult. Right now, I'm being considered as a minority business enterprise in Massachusetts. I know I'm black. They need to validate that I'm black. Things like that. But whatever it takes, I look forward to that opportunity, and that's what they have to do to certify that, to enforce those type of things. You're right, but people take advantage. There are people who have 51%, ownership, and they do literally nothing, but it allows them, typically the white male counterpart, to take advantage and get more projects. Correct? So
well,
you're right.
No, but it's a system distortion. It's not that. It's not
but those
that.
are exceptions.
No,
those
but it's not that. No, I wouldn't
exceptions.
say it's exception. That's not a conniving thing. I don't think people are conniving that. I don't think that people that do
I
that.
think so. I think people are definitely taking advantage of that. I think people are positioning themselves. Yeah.
It's a technicality, right? So what happens is, if you can legitimately make the case based on these rules that people have set out, right? The first thing you do when you see a set of rules is read them to your advantage. That's what everybody does.
Well, Greg, if we're all on the same page as far as diversity being positive, and we read that to our advantage, then we would promote diversity.
How do we do that? What I'm saying to you is, how do we make it happen? How do we make it happen? Like that's where
Well,
that's where
the
like
first
that's
thing
where
you
I'm
need to do
interested.
is
That's what I'm
tell
interested in.
people
It's like, what are you going to do?
you need you have access. You and Greg have access to spaces and rooms and conversations that I simply would never have access to. People will let down their guard with you, and they'll tell you, "Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're taking advantage of this rule." Right, right, Greg? And they'll tell
Yeah.
you that, or they'll say, "I'm not going to give this guy a break. I'm going to utilize him," and they'll tell you those little things. That's where we need brave, courageous people like yourselves to step up and say, "No, you know what? That's kind of skanky. That's kind of wrong. You should not be doing that. You should actually give these people a chance. And if that person's not qualified, then you bring somebody on who is qualified as a partner, and you actually work with them. Because I know some people who could hook you up, who could actually make your business better. So if you're just bringing this person on just to take advantage of a rule, then I cannot support it. But it requires folks who are in privileged positions to step up. Folks who have privileged those conversations.
Well, here you're here. You're here,
and that's not me. No, I'm not.
No, hang on.
This nice
hang on.
broadcast.
We have
this is nice, Michael.
We have a. Hang on one second.
Are in the room.
Hang on one second.
Go ahead.
Here's the platform, brother. You're with us right now.
You know what? This is a great platform, and I applaud you guys for stepping up and embracing diversity, and that's great. But I'm saying outside of this platform, in those private times, those private conversations, when you guys are talking to those folks who are wrong, who are saying things that are disparaging,
but I don't know for sure.
Minorities, LGBTQ, you're in those rooms, and that's where we need brave people to step up, just like those folks who stepped up and marched in June to continue that movement, so that people will call people out and say, no, that's wrong. You should not.
Edward, here's what I'm telling you. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Edward, listen to me for a second. Listen. I don't hear those conversations. What you're talking about, that what people are saying that, listen, I'm a lighting distributor, okay? Here's what happened in the last 4 years, okay? I'm going to put it here for you. Greg and I went from being small-time regional players in the lighting business. We started a podcast, and we took the elevator to the top floor of the lighting industry. Okay, that's what happened. And I don't mean to be say that I'm very blessed that happened. And I thank all the people that have made introductions for me and all that sort of stuff along the way. But what I'm telling you is that largely from what I've seen in the lighting business, I don't see anybody, I don't know anybody that I would consider a racist, that I would consider anti-anything. I would say that most of the people I've seen would embrace a good program to help people out, and a targeted program that are at the top areas of the lighting business. I don't see that. Now, could we change things and make things better and promote people?
You did say that. You said people were taking advantage of women-owned businesses.
No, but yes, that's common. Yeah. That's because that's a technicality.
Well, it also speaks to people. Those are people who and those are people who we can call out. We could say, your company, the way it's structured. Well, whatever you need to do to address those issues. If you see someone gaming a system, then what do you do? What do you do, Michael? What is Greg?
I'll tell you, nobody's going to do anything. Everybody's going to be afraid. So if you were to set up a program, like what I said is, you make a change. The people tried to make a change, and I see a lot of gaming of that change. Okay, that's what my position is. I look at it. Okay. But they're passing the technical test.
That's a pessimistic view. What if people don't game to change? What if people actually do the right thing and actually embrace diversity? Just like your program, the program you spoke about in Toronto.
That's a good point.
That's the opportunity. That's what could happen. That's the future that we really want to point to. And that's what my statement was about. That we can make that happen. We could bring prosperity to everyone in that way.
We would love to help you with that. We would love to help you with that.
I'd love to have you be a part of that. Yeah.
Well, we would love to help you. I mean, anything that we can do, help.
And then just to jump in.
Sorry, Greg.
Here, Mike. Yeah. I've been
miss hearing you, Greg,
this whole time, but yeah, I'm here.
You were quiet on the previous one too.
Well, yeah, because here's what it comes down to for me is we can talk about all this stuff and you can do this, and I think what I understood out of Michael's comment about the statement and platitude and all that is that some people just do that and they don't do anything else.
Agreed.
I don't care. I don't like that either. If you're just going to talk about it, what good is it? We need action. And that's what we're about.
Mm-hmm.
What Michael and I are about. We'll act with you. We don't want to talk about it or say it. We want to act. And that's what has got to happen to make it happen. And I don't think from our side, that we look at anybody differently. We're business people. Who's going to help our business? We don't care who helps. If you help our business, you help our business. And that's what it's all comes down to. And I want to say a lot of people are like that. I can't speak for the whole lighting industry, but that's why I think we're saying, is it a major problem? It sounds like it is something we need to address, but what can we do? What can we act on?
Yeah, it's a structural problem, and it's not something. I agree with you. You won't find people racist where they'll say, "Oh, I hate this person." It's just one of those things where opportunities are simply not there for folks of color, and it's a structural problem. So you look around, and you don't see many people of color in the room. You're like, "Wow, well, how did that happen? What do we need to do better to bring more voices, more people, more perspectives to this room?" And that's where, and I'm not saying I have the answers at all. We're looking or open to any type of answers. And having your platform like this is truly a welcome, um, a welcome opportunity for us to put that out there. And there are more voices than mine, trust me. And it gets to be challenging to be the only voice out there. But if it's on me to speak about that, and I was glad to give my opinion on that one thing about the predictions for 2021. We need more folks to step up because I'm getting old in the industry. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I want to see younger folks come up and be doing even better than I am. So I want to make those opportunities available to them and have none of the challenges that I had within the industry and having my career path going such a circuitous route. I want them to have direct access to opportunities to do great things in this industry. So I welcome your help and your support in doing that on this platform. And truly, I could invite other folks who can also voice these type of concerns and may have some solutions as well. So I say thank you. And one thing I like to mention is that, you mentioned those platitudes and those companies that put out those platitudes and you hear nothing from them. Bring them on the show. Call them out. So how are you enabling that nice statement that you put out? What are you doing? See what they have to say.
That's what we want to know.
Yeah. You know what?
That puts words to action.
So because we did this show, I'm going to do that, actually.
I love that. I love it. Great.
I'm going to do that,
awesome.
Actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't like it when people are full of shit. Actually.
Same here.
No, I'm not like in any area of the world, whatever it is.
I don't have time.
You want to make a statement? Yeah. Greg, come on, Greg, Eric. We don't roll like that, brother. This is the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Edward Bartholomew.
be encouraging too. That maybe say, well, here's what other companies are doing. Have you considered this? Have you considered about diversifying your board? Have you considered all these different methods that there are avenues for doing this type of thing? And so give them a way to contribute and show them a way. So that's all.
Should we have him on again? Because that's a good place to hold it right there, brother.
Yeah, we're going to have to because we have your whole career to get into. You're going to be a second guest. That's what I was all geared up for. I'll hold this for the next one.
Yeah, I didn't know we would jump right into this. So
we don't know either.
Thank you guys.
We just go.
Yeah, we just roll it. That's how we do it, brother. Okay, so we'll call it at that. Hey, folks, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening. Edward, say bye to everybody. Greg, check out. Woo! See you guys later.
Greg. Bye, Michael. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You got to go to satco.com. That's right. Starfish, Greggy. Starfish! satco.com.
You know what's fun about the Starfish, and in addition to everything that it does, it's named for somebody pretty important at Satco, Herb Gilden, the founder. There's actually a documentary called The Starfish by his grandson that is awesome. We had a whole podcast on that. Mm-hmm. You should check that out too. But yes, check out this product as well. Check everything out, man. This product is awesome. Color changing, tunable, Wi-Fi enabled, live life enabled with a Satco Starfish system.
Do it. Do it now. Go to satco.com. That's SATCO.com. That's the we do the right thing, we do the right thing people, and they do. I can tell you for sure because I know them. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NAILD.org. That's nailed.org. If you're a lighting distributor, you're not in Nailed. Your only reason you're open is because of us, right, Greg?
That's right. You have Nailed to blame for that.
We lobbied the government. That's the number one benefit of in 2020 and 2021 is that lighting distributors are essential. What's going on there, Scott? Oh yeah, sorry, just a problem with the control booth there for a second. But folks, thank you for listening. Edward Bartholomew. Hey man, that was a hell of a podcast.
That was awesome. And like we said, how we ended it, we got to do it again because we got to get into his whole career, which is a long one, an interesting one from what I could read.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know what? I actually have, it's interesting that I just had a really good idea. Edward, we'll talk about it next time we talk. Bye for now, folks. Love you guys.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. If you are lost, the Lord is there to find you.